Welcome to VidCon Now Asia Part 3, coming to you from Singapore, Hong Kong, and Morocco. And I've never said that before. The bags are packed. The Hawaiian shirt is on. The sunnies are ready because we are going traveling. And I haven't said that for a long time either. My name is Jasper Donat, and this week we are continuing our look at the creators and the companies who are making it in Asia Pacific. We're looking at the region through the eyes of one of the world's biggest and most successful travel creators, Jeremy Jauncey. He's the CEO of Beautiful Destinations, and he's in Morocco, and Ivy Wong, CEO of VS Media in Hong Kong and China. Now, we all know that Asia is huge. Multiple countries, languages, cultures, religions, and laws that differ country by country. This means also that opportunity rocks, business opportunities, new monetization strategies, and an ability to reach 2/3 of the world's population. Our previous two sessions featured Kurt Hugo Schneider, who talked a lot about local language, relevance, and authenticity, and also Collab Asia, who drilled down deeply into the China market and took us behind that great firewall. So we're going to be talking to Jeremy and Ivy. We'll be hearing from them both in a second, but before we start, please remember, we are always keen to hear your feedback. Who would you like us to interview? What would you like us to talk about? You can easily find me at Jasper Donat. And then finally, before we start the session, just to let you know, we've had one or two internet connection issues from all over the world today. So this session has been pre-recorded. So we're going to be hearing from Jeremy soon, but first I want to set the scene and introduce you all to someone you've probably met before if you've been to a VidCon in Asia, Ivy Wong, the CEO of VS Media. Ivy is the CEO, it's a next generation media company built by millennials for millennials, has over 1,000 content creators, 200 million fan base, and offices in China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Singapore. So Ivy, tell us a little bit more. Who is VS Media? What is VS Media, and what are you up to?
Thank you, Jasper. First of all, I want to say Happy Chinese New Year. Still Happy Chinese New Year Day here in Hong Kong, and then I'm sure in Singapore as well. VS Media basically has a mission to empower creator. We work with creator to put deals, to distribute and monetize their content. So for distribution side, we have, of course, we have an MCN partnership with YouTube, but then we basically sign up all the MCN partnership with all the major digital platform in China. So we basically work with creator to help them to get into China and then do the worst visor, helping Chinese creator to go outside. We have on the monetization part, we're very focusing on brand deal and then also like licensing, co-production deal with platform. And since last year, we're very focusing on doing content commerce. On two things that I want to highlight is like we do have like two very important partnership. One is with Tencent that we set up creative hub in Hong Kong, particularly helping international creator and media company to get into China using all the Tencent's resources. So and then at the same time is helping the Chinese company to go outside, partnering with international creator or company. And the second partnership is like we work very closely with Alibaba, helping international creator and creator to monetize their content through e-commerce, particularly on live streaming internationally or in China. So we do have like over 1,000 creator now, and then we have like 300 million fan base already, have office in Hong Kong, China, Singapore, Taiwan. So keep expanding. So I'm very happy to have a chance to share more with you today.
So thank you for that, Ivy. I know we're going to be talking a lot about international creators coming into the region, and we're going to be talking to Jeremy about that later. But you just mentioned that you're taking a lot of Chinese creators out. What successes and what challenges are you finding in doing that and taking Chinese speaking content to markets around the world?
I think like one of the very successful cases like how Jeremy get into China. I will let him talk about this more. But I think it's like one way that's like for international creator to get into China, the success factor is like you have to get in like all early. So he got into China in the year of 2015. And then he has been in China many times, working with the local partner, creating local content for Chinese audience. And he has been very open working with all the Chinese brand to help them grow their business inside China and outside of China. So I honestly speaking, I feel that like, it's getting very difficult now to get into China for international creator. One is the China market is becoming more mature. So when we look at Bilibili, so they have like around 57 million active user every single day, but they already have 1.8 million creator creating daily content. So like 5 years ago, when Jeremy get into China, that maybe only have few thousand creators in China. So they are not that professional. But now most of the Chinese creators are very professional. They can create local content that can resonate with the local audience. So it will be much tougher for the international creator to get into China if you don't have a very unique positioning, or if you cannot create a content unique or professional enough that the local creator cannot compete with you or cannot copy. So a good one for beautiful destination is like they can create content that is very professional, very high quality, and they create travel content that's like not many local creator can create. So they have a very solid community in China that even the local creator like cannot copy. So now they basically appreciate that like if they can create high quality pieces of content, they will send to like Jeremy's Weibo and ask him for approval and say like, do you feel that these pieces of content now look like a BD style? So they become a community rather than the community is getting stronger. So my thinking is for international creator, if you really want to get into China, you have to look into whether your content is unique enough, competitive enough. Are you willing to like Kurt to learn Mandarin to do like a lot of like local content that can resonate with the Chinese audience?
I mean that's fascinating stuff, and you know we did discuss the last VidCon Now Asia some of the differences between China and the rest of the world. For VS and the creators that you're working with, you said you're working with you've got 300 million collected fan base. What formats do you find are working?
So I would say like on one side, like the content in China is getting shorter. It's like TikTok or Douyin. And then on the other side, like Bilibili, the content is getting longer and longer. So like it's more like comics or long form content. In China, like everyone know, like we cannot get into anything political, newsy, or like controversial. So still like the format will be, I think it's like still like entertainment or like cultural basis, but you either go into like longer form or you either go into like shorter form, like the TikTok and Douyin one. But then one format that I highly recommended is Chinese people are getting really crazy on social e-commerce. So, or like what we call is content e-commerce. So like I see a good successful cases on like unboxing content. So people love to buy stuff in China, like particularly now they cannot travel. They used to be travel around the world to buy stuff, right? So they can like went into LV and bought everything there, but now they couldn't do it. So so I saw like international unboxing content doing really well with a link to buy. So they love to have like click to buy kind of function. I think that will be something keep keep growing.
So we're gonna talk to Jeremy about travel content in a little bit. But just on a broader scale, what can international creators do in China? What can't they do? And you mentioned politics and stuff, but are there any other don't do's? Just a quick summary there, and then we'll bring Jeremy in. So what can we do? What can't we do? And what don't we do?
Yeah, I will say like I I will say now like most of the international creators still fancy about growing in China. So before the strategy is like I set up a social media account in China, be it at Weibo or Douyin or like on Bilibili, and then start to grow the fan base and then start to monetize it. So I think we have to change this strategy because it will take so long for you to get into China, set up your social media, and then become famous and then starting to monetize. So what I will say is like right now, totally change the strategy and then make good use of your international or your Asia Pacific fan base, and then starting to work with like company like us to starting to monetize your international fan base. Like there's a lot of Chinese brands like Xiaomi or like so there's a lot of Chinese brands they really want to go outside of China. So they want to work with like international creator and leveraging their fan base and then grow their footprint out there. So I would say like don't fancy about just get in there, set up your platform and then spend 1 or 2 years, but instead like make good use of your international fan base, particularly if you have like a good Asia Pacific fan base. All the brands in China, I think major brand this year are focusing on APAC market. So that will be a lot of like monetization, commercial opportunity with what you have right now, rather than spend time on building something new. So I think that's super important. That's like don't get in now without a very unique or competitive positioning, rather than making good use of your like international positioning.
Okay, so Ivy, thank you for your wonderful insights. We're gonna come back to you in a minute. So before that, we're gonna say hello to Jeremy. He is, well, I'll ask him where he is because I may have got that wrong earlier on. But Jeremy Jauncey, serial technology media entrepreneur, founder of Beautiful Destinations, voted by Fast Company as one of the most innovative companies in the world. It's an award-winning strategy, branding, content agency, and he has over 22 million people following him across multiple platforms. And he's also a global ambassador for the WWF, the World Wildlife Foundation. Jeremy, welcome to VidCon Now Asia. Where are you right now in the world?
Thanks, Jasper. It's great to see you. I'm in Marrakesh in Morocco. We ended up doing a partnership with the Moroccan Tourism Board out here at the back end of last year. So I was very lucky to be able to get out here and base myself here. So I'm here for the next month or two.
And home is usually?
So home was New York, and split between New York and London. We have offices there, and we also have, through our partnership with Ivy, a setup in Hong Kong, which is the base for mainland China and our growth through Asia Pacific. So normally I'm splitting my time between there, and also now increasingly with a bit more time in Singapore.
And obviously we'd love to see you back here again. So yes. Jeremy, obviously you're doing a lot of stuff, and we talked about that, but this is a question I love to ask people, about, what you do for a living. Let's say, so you're on a first date, you're on your first date with someone. What do you tell your first date that you do for a living?
Yes, so creative and content is the simplest way to explain it. And really the two tiers for us are, one, activating this enormous community of passionate travelers around the world that turn to us every day on Instagram and Weibo and Snapchat and TikTok, and using that community to understand what's happening in the world of travel, sharing with them insights and ideas from brands and also from tourism boards themselves on what to do, where to stay, what to eat, all that kind of good stuff. But then if the first date was interested in the business side of things, I'd get into a little bit more of the kind of creativity, the content creation and the strategy part, which is actually the beating heart of the business and what actually drives us forward and is how we monetize.
So obvious question, but you're a travel blogger, your business is based around the travel industry. How do you survive when there's no travel?
Yeah, I mean, listen, last year was a challenging year. There's absolutely no doubt about it. The first half of the year, as the whole of the world shut down, I think anyone in travel experienced the same kind of challenges we did of just kind of buttoning up and waiting, really. For us, we aren't on the transactional side of travel, so we don't actually make our money when people book and people buy. We're more on the sort of branding, creative, and strategy side. And so, thankfully for us, we still have a load of clients that are going into sort of strategic planning. How do we message about what we're doing? How do we stay in a conversation with people when people can't travel? What's the strategy around how we talk about our recovery, our health protocols, and all of those things? So thankfully for us, we still were able to stay busy, win new business, and actually thankfully grow the company, but nowhere near the rates that we were at before.
That's a fantastic story. Now you're up at over 22 million followers, and I think that number might be about a year old as well, so it's probably significantly more than that. Where did it all start? How did you get into the whole business of travel and online? And
yeah, I mean, listen, it started on the creative side, and I think hopefully this will relate to a lot of people that are watching, where really our initial focus was, could we create a community of like-minded people all over the world that were passionate about expressing themselves through the lens of travel? And it began for us on Instagram, and the very simple insight that people all over the world were now turning to digital and mobile platforms to express their creativity around where they lived. And so we built a community of individuals all over the world that were early adopters of Instagram, early adopters of mobile photo technology, and just said to them, listen, we will be the voice, we will be your voice in the world, and we will create a community of people and then an audience where we can share this content and we can talk about where to travel and how to travel. And in those early days, Jasper, brands wouldn't talk to me. I couldn't get meetings with serious media companies. In the early days of social media, nobody really wanted to know. And then as things kind of grew up and more people used the platform, and more people realized the importance of this new wave of creative talent and this new way of making content, that's how our business actually managed to scale. So as we started to win our first few clients, we brought in some pretty senior heads from bigger, more traditional agencies, the Young and Rubicons, the Droga Fives, and just helped them put together what we felt was a new model of creative and strategy agency that could then embrace this new wave of young creatives.
That's really cool. And so that's where it all started. And now you're at 22, whatever the number is. But how have you then built a fan base in Asia? Because we heard Ivy talking about language, talking about being relevant, very competitive market, being unique. So how have you got over those challenges to build a successful presence and business in Asia?
Yeah, I mean, we absolutely would not have been able to do it if it hadn't been for Ivy and VS Media. Having a strategic partnership at the very, very beginning of everything we did, I think is probably the best bit of advice I can give to anyone that's thinking about coming to the region. We did a load of due diligence. We probably spent a good 6 months meeting with companies. Ivy and I spent a lot of time just talking about what the differences were between where we'd been successful in the West and how we could apply that. I then actually invested a lot of my own personal time. So I came out and I spent a lot of time in Hong Kong and Singapore, meeting with local brands, meeting with local creatives, and then starting to actually invest. And you do have to invest. That's the reality. I mean, we have a global business now, but to make Asia successful, we had to spend some serious time there. And then Ivy and her team were able to actually translate the vision we had and the positioning, and it worked in the market. So our particular niche, and Ivy touched on it, was how do we bring really premium content at a fraction of the price of what a big traditional agency would do, but also bring it inbuilt with an engaged and passionate audience. And so the way that we tell our stories and the way that we share our content, it never seems like advertising. We do go into brand partnership explaining that we will give them huge amounts of exposure. We will make them amazing premium content, but we really need them to trust our vision and trust the way that we make content and tell our stories for it to actually work. And thankfully with Ivy's help and that sort of translation engine, we've been able to do that, and it's able to be successful for us.
And so those brands, are they, what kind of brands are they? Tourism boards or hotel, travel?
Yeah, it's across the board now. So it started very heavily in tourism boards because that's where our skill set was from the rest of the world. But it's grown into hotels, airlines, real estate developers, fashion brands, technology brands. Although our kind of core positioning is around travel, I think that more and more people, certainly in the run-up to the pandemic, were seeing travel as a way of life, an expression of their own kind of identity and the things they wanted to achieve. And certainly now that we've all been locked down for a year, we've seen our own social channels explode in size and in engagement because people are desperate to get back out into the world. So it does open up a whole load of opportunities to work with brands that aren't traditional travel brands and be a part of that narrative that the world is opening up. When the vaccine becomes more widespread and people feel more comfortable traveling, we're really hoping that there'll be this sort of re-emergence of the power of travel and how good a force it is in the world.
Here. Well, as I said, I've got my sunglasses ready and bag in hand. But joking apart, and you've obviously got a very serious business. You also have a lot of focus on purpose as well. And I mentioned earlier that you are an ambassador for the World Wildlife Foundation. What we're going to do is let's show a video of it's a cut from a video of you working with the World Wildlife Foundation, and we'll come back and talk about that a little bit in a little bit.
This mine is too big and it can't be built.
This is not an environmentally okay thing to do.
Yeah.
The Pebble Mine fight's been going on for 20 years, and it pits two huge industries in Alaska head to head. You've got the largest salmon fishery in the world, and you've got this huge mine project.
A few months ago, I joined WWF in Southwest Alaska, an area that has one of the world's most productive marine ecosystems. From our base across Cook Inlet in Homer, we traveled to witness the largest salmon migration in the world and an area that includes Bristol Bay, a place on the front lines of the fight against the international mining industry.
So here's the issue. Underneath the ground in this area is one of the largest copper reserves anywhere in the world. I mean, you have natural resources like that, you have people that want to mine it. Around 20 years ago, the first group of miners put together a proposal to start pulling this out of the land, and it was rejected. But recently, the EPA have fast-tracked potential legislation that would allow it to be developed, which means the marine ecosystem, one of the most productive in the world, the homeland for the bears, all of this amazing natural beauty would be ruined in the pursuit of profit.
So that's a beautiful video, and I encourage anyone to look for it. It's on YouTube. It goes for significantly longer than a minute and a half. But Jeremy, give us a little bit more information about you and your work with the World Wildlife Foundation.
Yeah, no, thanks, Jasper. I've been an ambassador for them for a while now, really just trying to help support and get the message out about the work that they do. For us within travel, sustainable travel we feel is critically important to the future of our industry. I think, if anything, what we've seen over this last year as people have traveled less has been the re-emergence of natural habitats, has seen growth in areas where over-tourism was causing a ton of issues, both for society but also for the environment. And I think as the environment becomes a more meaningful topic around the world, there's an enormous opportunity for creative talent to get into this space, to use their ability to tell powerful, impactful stories that will move people and do it on the platforms where people spend their time. So I've been very, very passionate about trying to find a way to help the WWF get its messaging out on social platforms. And certainly anyone that is watching that has an ambition to help with any kind of cause-based storytelling, if you have that creative ability, you can actually help a lot of these organizations who may be a little bit more traditional, who may not have the content capabilities that you have, to make a message, help it have impact, help it land in the places that it's supposed to land. So that particular video was around an initiative in the US, which was very, very politicized. It was about a mine which, as the video said, was going to ruin natural habitat, which was one of the largest salmon fisheries anywhere in the world. It was also one of the, if not the largest and most significant migration spots for the brown bears of North America. And so I just felt it was a real opportunity to support an amazing organization, come in, but also make a piece of content that would be visually inspiring and then help translate that onto all the platforms that I think people would like to watch it in. And I think that sort of mantra, although it applies in this case very much to sustainable travel and positive impact storytelling, I think that is the mantra that brands and creators should think about how they make content and how they get their message out there. Because I think we've moved a long way from just doing that one iconic YouTube video and then cutting it down into a 15-second edit that you might put on Instagram stories, or you might put on Weibo, or you might change the way you put that video onto other platforms. You really do need to be shooting specific content for specific platforms that is native to the way that people tell their stories on those platforms, and that's really what the focus is of how I've been supporting WWF.
And let's come back to Asia. I mean, obviously we could probably set up a whole separate interview about purpose and responsibility and cause related marketing. But let's come back to the topic today, which is about how you are working in Asia. We're going to bring Ivy back in a minute, but just quickly before that, how are you? You're in New York, London, Morocco. And you are my first ever interview in Morocco, I think. How are you communicating with, and how are you building that audience specifically in Asia, not just China? Because I know you've worked in other markets, Indonesia, I believe, and what have you. So how are you communicating and connecting and building that audience?
Yeah, so it's a combination of two ways. Number one is a localized business development team that, I guess, on the business side of audience, is reaching out to brands, is working with local governments, and is having conversations about the way that we can support. Our head office, which was New York throughout the whole of last year and has now gone completely remote, now gives us a flexible model where we can really be, with senior leadership of brands or senior leadership of decision makers within government anywhere in the world, fairly easily. And of course, Ivy has been the backbone for us in terms of making that come to life in Asia. But when it comes to the consumer side, we do have teams that focus specifically on how we address that market. So we have a team in the Philippines that runs a load of our social media. They are incredibly talented, young creative, young social media experts who help us stay relevant and stay localized to the market. Same goes for Singapore, same goes for Hong Kong. And then in partnership with Ivy's team, it's a separate team that looks at mainland China. So Ivy touched on creatives that want to come into the Asian market, keeping a hold on their international audiences. I think that's critically important, but also you really do have to find local creatives and local talents and partner with them. And we've only been able to be successful through that partnership model.
That's very cool. So let's thank you so much, Jeremy. We're gonna bring Ivy back and just ask both of you a couple of questions while we've got a little bit of time left. So Ivy in Hong Kong, Jeremy, sorry, in Morocco. It sounds like for Asia, what you're saying is basically there is no such thing as Asia. It's a series of different markets, and you have to have different strategies for each market, right? So Ivy, I'm going to ask this question to you first. We're talking about lots of exciting opportunities in Asia and Asia Pacific, but what remains the largest challenges to success in this part of the world?
So I think the major challenge is like everyone sees Asia is so big and so huge, but everyone see that it's just like one single Asia. But Asia is so fragmented. There's so many countries, so many markets, and then each market is so different. Philippines is so different from Malaysia. Korea is so different from Japan. You need to be really local, and then you need to be resonate with the people. So I think one thing that Beautiful Destination is very successful is like they have a very strong global community, but they have like all the local creator or the local people helping to build a community together, like all over the world, like with like local content, connecting with their local team, connecting with the local people, building up the whole global community from ground up. So I think like the major challenge is like how we can get local, and then how we can get resonate with each of the local markets.
Yeah, I mean, really, I feel exactly the same. And the added dimension for me, you know, as an entrepreneur and the founder of the business, is then how do you gain traction within the business community? And Jasper, you and your business have been amazing, supporting us and giving us a platform and helping us kind of grow our company. And had we not had that, you know, it wouldn't have been commercially successful for us. So there's a period of time where, as any business owner knows, you need to invest before you can start seeing a return. But one of the biggest challenges, which thankfully we were able to overcome, is to find a handful of the right business partners. And obviously Ivy drove all of that for us, but different platform partnerships, finding ways to speak at the right kind of conferences, get in front of the right kind of decision makers within business who, if you have a valuable proposition, no matter where you are from in the world, will then bring you in and then will actually help you to grow your company. So I would stress that it's equally as important to be involved in opportunities like the one we have today and we've had over the years with your business, Jasper. So that's critically important for me.
So Ivy, what is next for VS Media? I mean, it's still, obviously, we're still in a tricky period of life. What's next for VS?
I think next for us is like we are very focusing on content commerce this year. It's like before everyone's just monetized their content through like brand deal or like content co-production deal or licensing deal, but like people want to buy stuff, particularly during this time. Everyone's like being locked down, they couldn't go anywhere, just they stuck at home and buy things. But like what triggered them to buy is like they seeing like a good pieces of content telling a good story about the products. So this year we'll be like so focusing on content commerce, and we want to work closer with like all the creators. They can create like good content that like can help the brand to sell and monetize faster, better.
And Jeremy, same question for you. Final word. What's next for Jeremy Jauncey and Beautiful Destinations?
Well, actually, on both sides, it's spending more time in Asia. So coming out and spending more time with Ivy and the team in Hong Kong and Singapore. Really excited about the growth opportunities for our business in the region. And we have a bunch of meetings lined up that are very exciting. I think tied into the fact that, fingers crossed, with the vaccine news and just the desire for consumers to get back into the world and traveling, there is this kind of built up demand that's there. And I think people have, well, maybe not forgotten, but just to remind that, you know, the world just suddenly stopped traveling unilaterally, not because people lost interest in travel, really because it just wasn't safe and people weren't encouraged to do it. But people were still on the run to probably one of the biggest trends and growth trends in travel that we'd ever seen. I mean, 1 in 5 jobs in the last 5 years was created in the travel industry. You had 1.2 billion international trips, more than have ever happened anywhere in the world. You had more mainland Chinese going out into the world, spreading culture and having experiences in other countries. And also an opportunity existed for more travelers to go back into China and into Southeast Asia and Asia at large. So those trends, I think, are only increasing in desire as people who've been sort of stuck at home are now ready to get back into the world of travel. So that's what our hope is. It's just, you know, how long will that take before it comes back?
No, I mean, like the people from China already like saying that they are going to take revenge if they can travel. They're going to spend all their money traveling and buying stuff out there. They can't wait. So I can prove that one.
So look, I can talk to you two for a very long time, but unfortunately time is up. I've written a lot of notes as ever. So let me just summarize what we've talked about. Interestingly, in the title of the session was Breaking Asia, but we kind of circled around this idea that there's no such thing as Asia. It's a series of individual markets. You need to be unique, you need to be competitive, you need to be relevant, avoid politics and controversy, certainly in China. Social e-commerce is getting bigger and bigger, and stuff like unboxing and what have you. Responsibility is important. The environment matters, very, very strong messaging coming through there, and the role that creators can play in communicating that important messaging. Partnerships matter, but I think that the most important thing that came out of that is being there matters the most. So be there, and hopefully we can all be there someplace in the future, maybe at VidCon in Asia when we go live later in the
Yeah.
year. Until then, we're so grateful to having Jeremy and Ivy join us today. Again, Gong Xi Fa Chai, Kung Hei Fa Choi, Happy Chinese New Year. Thank you again to Ivy and Jeremy, and apologies again for the internet connection issues we just faced with Ivy in Hong Kong, me in Singapore, and Jeremy all the way in Morocco. That's the internet and that's live broadcasting. But thank you again for watching. Up next in 2 weeks' time on VidCon Now Asia, we are going to Vietnam. A population of almost 100 million people and a rapid growth of all things online. It's estimated that most Vietnamese people spend on average 6 hours a day online. Joining us in 2 weeks' time, we have the wonderful Esther, the CEO of Pops TV, one of the leading people in the Vietnamese and Asian media business. So join us then, and thank you again for tuning in to VidCon Now Asia.